Hello folks. Today I wanted to show how you can use how to reference other sheets when you're writing formulas and to learn some of the tricks for doing that. So first of all, we just have a simple sheet here, only one sheet in it. But first of all, we need to create some data. So I'm going to start off here with a transpose. And what I want to do here is I want to transpose a sequence of 5 rows and 1 column. I want to start at 2018, and I want to increase by 1. I'll go ahead and hit enter. And that's just giving me very quickly a fast way to write out a set of years. And then secondly, I want to create some numeric values. So I'm going to do an array formula. I'm going to go equal array formula, and it's going to be, I'm going to actually then round, and I'm going to do a rand array, and the rand array is going to have 100 rows and 5 columns, and actually we'll close that out, and then we want to round that to 4 places, and I want to take that and multiply it times 1000, and that should give me an array of numbers. And in fact, I think I'll go ahead and make that even bigger. I think I'll multiply it by 100,000. So you can see I'm getting an array of numeric values, currency in this case. And then I want to assign this to, like, say, randomly a set of states. So just to build this data. So this is going to be equal to a VLOOKUP. Let's spell that correctly, a VLOOKUP. And the search key is going to be a rand array, or a rand between 1 and 50, and that's we have 50 states. I have a list of states over here in this range over here. It's actually a set of, let's see, I got a mistake there, rand array, comma, and then my range is going to be this range here. I'm going to go over and down. Let's see. And I got to select this whole array I have over here. It's a hidden array that I have. Okay, that's going to be my rand array. And then I better go ahead and lock that range. So that's going to be function F4 on a Mac. And then we want column 3 of this array. And I want it's unsorted. And I should be able to hit enter, and I should get a state. And if I double click that down, I should get a random set of states with all of this data. Okay, so now very quickly I've built myself a little data set that I can use. Now what I wanted to show is that if I create a new sheet here, if I create a new sheet, sheet 2, we and let's say that I go back here to sheet 1 and I rename it with a space, just to show you. And I come over here to sheet 2, and if I want to say get a sum, so I want to say this is going to be equal to the sum, and in this case what I'm going to want to sum is the values that are over on sheet 1. Now because I'm writing the formula, I could come back to sheet 1 and hit it, and I could go ahead and select that range, and notice what I wanted to show you is that sheet 1 has a single quote around it, and that's because of that space. So if I wanted to go ahead and have this be the sum of B2 instead of B, and then go ahead and hit finish that out. So there's my sum of this column, and notice it's column B starting at B2 and going all the way down through B. And that's the amount of money that is showing up based on that. But what's important is that this sheet name, sheet 1, is in single quotes. And that's usually why I tend to not put spaces in names. Now if I change sheet 1 to sheet 1 without the space, notice when I come back to the formula, you can see that the single quote around sheet 1 is gone, because the Google Sheets does correct that when you make a change to it. Now there are several other ways you could reference this sheet, but it's important. And notice also, if I come here, let me go ahead and let me do this. Let's change this to a lowercase s, and let's go ahead and put that space in there. Now that's going to fix this reference, but if I decided to go ahead and I want to see column C, I could just start typing equals, and I could type, sheet, it's sheet 1, exclamation mark. Actually what I wanted to show is that if I made this a capital, sheet 1, exclamation mark, in this case C2, C, and we should be able, we should be able to see, let's do a sum of that, a sum of sheet 1. You would think that we would be able to get that to work. We hit enter and we're going to get an error, and there's an error in the way that we've typed that formula. And the problem with it is that there is no sheet 1. If we were to name this to a lowercase s, that's not going to fix it. If we were to wrap it in a single quote, that would fix it. So that's the sum of that column. So it's really important to note that if this is a capital S, let's check that. Nope, but it actually does work, but it renamed it to that lowercase. So if I went to capital S, hit enter, it's noticing that it's actually self-correcting that. But it's important that note that when you're referencing a second sheet, it is case sensitive, and that's important. So let's go ahead and change that back. So there's sheet 1, there's sheet 2, and we can reference these sums of those columns. Another way that you could do this that might make it nice would be to select a column. Let's select this column. I'm going to do a command shift down, and that's selecting that whole range. And when I select that range, I could come in here and I could give this a named range and call it 2018. And that, and I guess you can't give it that name. So you, let's call it something different. So we should note that you can name these columns. Here's a col, my col C, and here's my col B. You cannot name the column with a numeric. So if I were to do a command shift down, that selects everything from D2 to D101. If I were to try to rename this here to 2020, it's not going to let us give that name, but I could call this col D. And there we would have col D. So another way to reference, one way we're talking about here is you can use the names. And remember, if you have spaces in the names, you have to wrap this with a single quote. But I could just as easily, in this case now, I could go equals sum, and the sum in this case is going to be col, we'll start with col B, and that should give us that 5172. And if we said this is equal to the sum of col C, or 5409, or in this case, you can see these numbers are changing, and that's because we've left these as a RAND array. if I wanted to get rid of that, what I would do is do Command Shift right, Command Shift down, and then I would do Command C and Command V. And what that does is changes that from a rand array, Command Shift right, Command Shift down, Command C, Command V, Command Shift V, excuse me. This is the Command Shift. And now notice these are not a rand array, these are no longer going to change as we would make modifications. So referencing other sheets, be sure to know that if you're using spaces, you have to wrap in a single quote, and a simpler way might be to simply create your named ranges. It's as simple as selecting a range, and then giving it a named range. In this case, I could call this call E, whatever you'd like to call it. And then I could come over here and I could do an equal of a sum, and I could do call and equals sum. Call E, and I notice all of my named ranges start to come up, and it does tell you what that named range is. So that's sheet 1, E2 to E101, and there we go. I have a different numeric. And notice these numbers aren't changing now because we came back here and got rid of our rand array formula that we had here.